Our next session is a special panel discussion organized by CzechInvest, featuring representatives from 6 innovative Czech startups: Kompenzo, Gauss Algorithmic, Dronetag, Vrgineers, Celestia Energy, and Vrgineers. So over the next 30 minutes, our panelists will share their insights and perspectives from their respective fields. Please join me in welcoming the CzechInvest team and participants to the stage, please. Thank you.
So, okay, thank you. I think this slide is good. 大家好.
大家好.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matouš Kostlivý. I am from CzechInvest office in Taiwan. I am based in Taiwan, and with me here is...
Hi, my name is Adela. I also work in CzechInvest, but in Czech Republic, and I represent a project ISABIC.
ESABIC stands for European Space Agency Business Incubation Center, just for your information. We will be covering today at the beginning, before we pass the word to our startups, some information about Czech Republic, Czech startup support from the government side, and our cooperation on some key projects like European Space Agency. As a partner, we have the ESABIC program for over 10 years. So my first question maybe would be, why do you, Adela, think that Czech state should be somehow involved in the startup support?
That's a very good question. For example, when I talk about ISABIC, what we do is that we support space startups, and we found out that 60% of the startups actually started because they got into our program. So without ISABIC, they would probably not decide to have a company because they got funded, they got the support. So for Czech Republic, it's important to, thanks to this support, the new companies are being created. That means new employees, because they hire employees. They, of course, Czech people are very inventive, so the country is also supporting new ideas to come to life.
I actually may get to that later, because we have Dronetag here. And this is actually one of the examples of the companies that was founded. And I remember from the discussions with Lukáš Brchl, he actually arrived to one of the hackathons that CzechInvest was organizing.
It's true, yes. CzechInvest was organizing a hackathon. The Dronetag team came there. They came up with the idea. Later, they actually applied to ISABIC, and now they are one of our best companies.
With their production in Taiwan, and they have a team in Taiwan. That's why we are glad to bring them here as well later on. We will hear more about them. But I remember that when talking with Lukáš, it was quite funny because he mentioned he wanted to get the free food. That's why he arrived to the hackathon, and he left with a startup idea that got funding from European Space Agency, and then came through the other startup support projects at CzechInvest, like technology incubation, right?
With the food, that totally sounds like Lukáš, I would say.
Yeah, so 60% of startups in ESABIC were actually funded based on the support they got from the state, from CzechInvest, through the cooperation with ESABIC. And this is just one of the examples. And I would like to bring that as well to the other startup program that we have, which is called Technology Incubation. And ESABIC is in the Czech Republic since 2016. So we celebrated 10 years anniversary this year. And actually, 4 years ago, technology incubation got to the light. And it was heavily inspired by the European Space Agency incubation program. It was basically copy-paste, I would say.
Yeah, you're saying it very correctly. It's copy-paste.
And before coming to Taiwan, I was actually part of the technology incubation team. So This was really, when we took the processes for evaluating the startups, for distributing the startup support, like money, funding, and there is as well some kind of way how to connect startups with mentors. So all that was heavily inspired from the European Space Agency business incubation programs to the technology incubation program of the Czech Republic. So at the moment, at CzechInvest, which is a government agency under the Ministry of Industry and Trade, we have startup support for space startups. We have startup support for startups in the technology incubation that cover not only startups from space, but as well artificial intelligence, mobility, ecotech. We have creative industries, so we can
Health tech also, yeah.
Yeah, advanced tech and materials, and we have many more. I forgot many because there is like 7 or 8.
7, yeah.
Yeah, seven
But
of those.
You can always fit in one
Yeah.
of them.
But so this is just for the context. And through the technology incubation, we supported over the last 4 years 270 startups. In the ESABIC, it was how many over the 10
Over
years?
70 in the 10 years. The space is very niche. Yeah.
So 70 startups, 60% of them would not probably ever happen if there wouldn't be the startup support from ESABIC. We often see as well another way to go, that many founders can either start their startup idea, because otherwise they wouldn't do that. So you are, I don't know, working in a corporate, you have this startup idea, but you don't have the extra push to actually start a project. So the technology incubation and projects like that can be this extra push. The same for the university students. You are a university student and you have no clue how to set up a business. You have no clue where to approach, how to get the initial funding, and where to get the initial mentorship to actually start up the project. And this is as well where we try to target our startup mechanisms to grow the startups that they are by numbers, simply by incentivizing the startupists to actually become startup founders. This is one group. And the second group I can see is as well those that already have a startup idea or where the startup is before and would like to start their startup and don't really want to let in the venture capital flow at the very early stage because they would lose too many of the equity. So they rather do with the startup support from technology incubation or ESABIC. And once they grow a bit, then they actually get the funding from the venture capital. So it's kind of a synergy between the state support that invests the early stage startup is, or where the venture capital doesn't flow yet. That's pretty much how the startup support from the Czech state is tailored.
I think for us it's also like our startups, what they say they like the most is that they go to the market with the ISA brand, you know, like we are startups supported by ISA. So that really catches your eye, you know, more than the funding. Go to the market and be like, you know, European Space Agency chose this startup to give funding to is something that the VCs listen to as well as, you know, the partners of the companies. We have 3 startups out of the 5 here that were actually supported by ISABIC, so maybe they can, you know, confirm this if it helped to them.
We can ask them later on, but the question is as well, I mentioned that we try to incentivize the students. And I believe the Dronetag maybe was this
was
example.
a student, yeah.
So is it often the students or is it rather the some experienced guys that become the startup founders or apply for the ESABIC support?
So just to give a context, ESABIC is not the only ESABIC in Europe. There are ESABICs in every European country that is part of the European Space Agency. And I found out every ESABIC has a different, like for example in Estonia, the typical founder is a guy around 40 who decided to, you know, leave the corporate, start his own business. We in Czech Republic had a lot of young founders, people who left university. Sometimes we have these like university professors, finally they invented something which is not good for drawer anymore, but is good for business. So they will go to ISABIC and go forward with the idea. But we tend to have more young founders than, you know, a typical corporate person.
And you mentioned as well that once you pass through the ESABIC program, you get the ESA stamp on your project. So to say, it's a validation of something that came through the process, is validated by CzechInvest, by ESABIC, by European Space Agency.
Yes.
Does it help you to get into the space projects then?
That's a complicated question because, well, we actually forced them to use the logo. When they sign the contract, they have to use the ISABIC logo. They eventually will find out that it's good for them. But with the space projects, it's a little bit more complicated. Like if you want to be a supplier to ESA, you already need to, have the technology on a very high level, but you are already familiar with how ESA works when it comes to processes of applying, and that helps a lot. But I don't think they really look at you that, you were ISABIC, then you are good as a supplier. It's more complicated than that because space is quite complicated, yeah.
We are in Taiwan. In Taiwan, they have TASA, like we have ESA. Americans have NASA. So I know you are in touch with TASA. Is there as well some opportunities for companies, maybe from Taiwan, in the Czech Republic?
Actually, last year we had a delegation from Taiwan in the Czech Republic. The space delegation and also the Taiwanese Space Agency came, so they were meeting with our ministry that takes care of the space activities. We had bilateral meetings. Things are sometimes very slow in space, so I hope we can collaborate together. The difficult part is that you need to have, a European a company to, get into the European space. Like you as Taiwanese company cannot apply for a tender in ESA. Yeah, these things are complicated, but I hope in the future we can see more Taiwanese companies contributing to the space sector in Europe, and hopefully we can also see more Czech companies contributing to the Taiwanese space sector.
It is not that known that actually space tech in Czech Republic is quite developed. There is quite many international institutions operating from the Czech Republic. There is as well many companies very active and delivering their solutions to the space. Can you just bring some examples or mention some?
So, for example, you guys know there was Artemis mission, right, around the moon. One of the companies from Czech Republic had their, it's like a detector, particle detector on the Artemis mission, which I think is a huge success. We also know that, European Space Agency has the Artemis rocket, and a couple of the components are also made in the Czech Republic.
Very cool. Actually, one of the things that we encounter quite often is that every call we encounter some weird projects applying. It's not only the good ones. Some of them are funky. I remember in technology incubation, we received a project that was focused on making, it was Toy Boy. It was focused on making adult toys with some special materials, getting data that you can use. Some projects like that we usually don't really get into our support mechanisms, but we get these kind of requests from some founders that are very ambitious to enter some fields that may seem funky. How is it with ESABIC?
We see some, I don't want to call them crazy people, yeah, but, I never imagined, it's a project from European Space Agency, so I thought people are, super serious about it. And then we come and there's a guy and he wants to apply with, a levitating platform for nights to protect Prague. And I'm like, who's your customer? The city of Prague is not going to buy we don't even have knights,
Knight, you mean a guy with a sword?
A guy with a sword, protecting Prague on the levitating platform.
That seems like Star Wars idea.
In the end, we told him his project is not feasible and his customer base is not very clear. Yeah.
So you mentioned it's not feasible. What do you actually evaluate in the startups?
So we have the main one is innovativeness, like your idea needs to be super, progressive. Then we need it to be feasible because we also have people, who apply with like nuclear, whatever kind of power thingy that will replace 99% of technologies in the whole world. So, it needs to be feasible and it needs to be scalable. So not just for Czech Republic, but they should be able to sell it abroad as well. And it needs to have what ESA calls like a space connection. So either you invent it for space or you use the space data from satellites like Earth observation data, navigation, can be satellite communication as well.
Actually, at CzechInvest, the startup support started quite late, around 2010. Back then, the idea came from our colleague who was like me. I'm in Taiwan, but she was in Silicon Valley, and she could see how many companies are bringing startups to Silicon Valley to get into the local incubators and kind of skyrocket their projects from Silicon Valley with the mentors from the Silicon Valley. Many startups actually came through these programs. One of them was Cognitive Security, which is an interesting example of a company because their founder was Michal Pěchouček, who is now a dean of the Czech Technical University. But once he was a startupist applying and coming through the CzechInvest startup support mechanisms, he went to Silicon Valley. He met the guys from Cisco there. Cisco then acquired his startup, and that's how it became actually that Cisco started to have R&D teams in Prague based on this kind of acquisition. And Michal Pěchouček was for a time leading these startups. And after that, he came back to the university and he started some interesting projects there. Then he went to Avas, to Gen, and now he is the dean of the Czech Technical University. And we believe that there is more startups to come out of that. But just for the example, how it is that even the professors, as you mentioned or described, can sometimes become startup founders and come through these mechanisms. And there may be some tangible outcomes out of this kind of cooperation, like that they found some client or somebody who is interested in their technology.
I don't know how it is in Taiwan, but I see a problem in Czech Republic is that the universities don't support young people to go and have a startup, Like they teach you to be an employee or maybe a researcher, but not start your own business. And I think we have to improve that because we're very behind in compared to other European countries with that.
And I would say this is actually true. I've heard from a couple of researchers that they mentioned that researchers in general don't take startup founding as a viable career path. They either do the research or they become employed by some company. They don't really think per se about their research as something that could be transferred into commercial research, which is something very, very unique in Taiwan because they have very interesting processes, they have very interesting numbers. And actually what I see, which is the most critical factor in Taiwan, is as well the fact that many technology companies around the universities are heavily involved in the research itself. They support it with the funding, but as well with expertise sharing. Many people in these companies are actually former students from the universities. So the ecosystem is able to grow like that. I think this is something we can take from Taiwan and bring it to the Czech Republic.
This is super important because I have personally witnessed that the university is rather an obstacle for the startup than actually supporting them. Like they were dragging them with contracts and so on. And I felt, we were actually afraid that they will not be able to be incubated because of that. So that's good for Taiwan, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. This was just the introduction about how Czech Republic and CzechInvest support startups through ESABIC and technology incubation. And now we will pass the word to the startupists themselves so they can introduce themselves to you. And the first one I would like to welcome on the stage is Johnny Darkwach, that will introduce his company, Gauss Algorithmic. And
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
should.
Gauss Algorithmic. And Johnny is actually one of the interesting examples from Brno, where definitely the cooperation between university and business make work quite well. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. If I can ask, will we have slides in? Yeah. No slides. All right. So I'll be very quick. So my company is called Gauss Algorithmic. It started in 2013. It's an AI product building company. So we help other companies, get AI solutions either into an existing product or just completely build a brand new product. We have all the supportive infrastructure, so customers can launch pretty much immediately because we have our own AI cloud solution, which we can launch the products on. And in the past 12 years, we've been helping companies in about 14 different industries. Some of them coming out of universities as well. And roughly last year we made about $2.8 million in revenue on these projects alone. So what we are bringing to Taiwan is a couple of use cases. So if you drop by to our stand, I've been focusing a lot on manufacturing. We've been helping manufacturing companies get some really decent numbers, and especially in things which are maybe not just on the factory floor, but also in sales and product offerings, right? So we have a company in the Czech Republic now who, when we started, they had about 8% conversion rate. They do roughly about 50 million euros a year, and now they're at 11%, right? Thanks to an AI solution which just simply speeds up the quotation process. So instead of like 15 people from various parts of the factory working on the quotes, just one person can do it. The AI predicts the pricing pretty accurately, and at the end of the day, it's a quick win solution which brings a lot of money into the company.
So your company is actually doing AI and doing it long before it was actually cool to do AI, right? So your company has a lot of experience with many projects across the fields.
Yep.
Can you name one of the applications of AI that you help to do for some of your clients? And you could name it like as an interesting example.
Yeah, so we have many projects. I mean, I fell in love with plenty of projects which are out there. I think my favorite project, and I think that's when we actually met, was we actually have a customer called Burger King, if you probably know him. They sell burgers. And we have a project with them for the past 3 years where we're doing a voice assistant for the drive-through, right? So automated drive-through experience, right? And on one hand, it may sound simple, but it's the most complex thing which we've ever done because, voice and AI and the real world kind of don't go together really well.
So sometimes you order fries or burger and you get something totally different.
Yeah, it is very complex. I mean, if you imagine, all of the things which happen there, then it's a pretty complex environment, right?
Okay, I think that's it for the introduction of Gauss Algorithmic.
Yeah.
And now we will welcome the next speaker, who is Gloria from Dronetag.
Yeah.
So please, thank you, Johnny, very much. So now we have Gloria from Dronetag, and Gloria is part of the company that we mentioned, of the company that came through ESABIC, came through technology incubation, and now we are happy to have them in Taiwan. Very active here. They have manufacturing here, and the floor is yours.
OK， 好，大家好，我是 Gloria。那因为我们是代表台湾亚洲区，所以我会用中文跟大家做介绍。那 Dronetag 是在2018年开始的，那现在进来台湾也有几年的时间了。那我们是负责亚太区域的开发。那首先，我先想问大家一个问题：无人机在天上飞的时候，我们看得到吗？我们知道它飞去哪里吗？我们知道它的高度吗？不知道，所以这是一个很大的问题。那 Dronetag 在做的事情就是解决这一项问题。我们来自捷克。 那我们分成2个大类，我们的产品有发射器，还有接收器。发射器是什么意思？它就是一个 transmitter， 它就是无人机的车牌的意思。我们让无人机在天空上有它自己的车牌，可以被看见，可以被分辨它的高度啊，它的方向在哪里。那接收器是什么？除了车牌以外，我们要看得到它嘛？那无人机在飞天空上，我们看不到。接收器就是让我们可以读取它的资料，传到我们的软体云端平台，让我们可以看到它的方向。那它的应用场景有哪些？很明显，飞机场。机场周围的空域安全是最重要的，所以我们要限制那个地区的空域。我们可以怎么管理它？然后我们怎么辨别它？然后还有什么？像一些活动场景，可能是演唱会啊，前一阵子的 F1 啊，然后还有一些可能监狱或是一些监管机构。那它在这些运用上，我们都有很多的合作。那 Remote ID 这个东西，在欧洲、在美国、在日本、在新加坡，它的法规已经是强制执行了。台湾很快也在跟进当中，所以这也是我们在努力的地方。那我们在这几个国家，我们已经有很多的合作以及实地的演练。那我们将会把这些案例也都带来到台湾的市场，试着跟台湾有更密切的合作，那延伸到更多的亚洲地区。那如果大家对于 Remote ID 或者这些发射器或者这些相关的合作有兴趣的话，都可以到捷克馆，我们就在旁边，可以跟我们有更深入的讨论跟接洽。谢谢 ，Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Please. So the next startup that we would like to introduce is Vrgineers. We have Tomáš Juříček here, who is Czech, but he is almost local. So Tomáš, introduce us about Vrgineers. What do you do?
Hello, my name is Thomas. I come from Czech Republic, but I am home in Taiwan. I am married in Taiwan. My wife is Taiwanese, so I'm partially local. I represent here a company called Vrgineers. It stands from Virtual Reality Engineers. It's a Prague, Czech Republic-based company founded in 2017. And we manufacture and design headsets for virtual and mixed reality for pilot training. I would like to invite you to my booth where we have a portable trainer. You can try flying in mixed reality headset. Our mission is to provide best quality training using next generation technology while lowering the cost. So our solution is helping pilots become more qualified and better trained while decreasing the training costs.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So anybody who would like to try it out and become a pilot for a while of some jet, it's possible to do it at our booth over there next to the stage. Thank you, Tomáš. And the last one would be Celestia Energy, which is one of the startups from ESABIC, who can't be here today, so Adela Boráňová will do the introduction instead of them.
Hello, everyone. So I will quickly introduce what Celestia does, because it's actually not my company. It's a company we supported through ESABIC. What Celestia Energy does is something that sounds like a sci-fi, but it's actual reality, is that they transmit energy through lasers. So, for example, they can power flying drones that have a receiver, photovoltaic receiver from the ground. So, for example, imagine you're firefighters, there's a fire, and you don't have to exchange the battery in the drone every 30 minutes because it powers out. But you can just directly, power it from the ground without any need to fly
To plug it in and,
Exactly.
And do it.
Yeah. So if you want to know more about Celestia, or you want to contact for Matthias because this project is interesting, come to our booth and we'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
And that's it from us probably today. I would like to mention that if you would like to have any questions about the startups that we have in our network, which is quite a lot, as we described, we supported many in the Czech Republic, you can come to us and we can deliver you the information about the field that you would be interested in. If you would like to meet some of the startups that are here at the stage, we are just here next to the stage. This is our Czech booth where you can get in touch and get into the deeper discussions with the startups.
One more thing, if you're interested in ESABIC, we have the program in English. Foreigners can also apply. So if you're interested, find us at the booth. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you to CzechInvest and all participating startups for sharing their mission in tech with us today. Thank you. If you'd like to continue the conversation or learn more about these companies, we invite you to visit the Czech Pavilion just right next to us and connect with the team after the section. Thank you.